which one is glucose? There we go. So the 6, 7, 8, or 11, which one is glucose? Oh, man. There, okay. So the bottom one, the top or the bottom ones? The bottom left or bottom right? Yes, yes. So 11, this is glucose. And that's our end product, right? From what cycle would this be here, Annabelle? Remember from your diagram? Or from your prior knowledge? Yeah, so that's our Calvin cycle. Okay, can you label any other of those? Can you do one more? No more guesses? You can't even guess what goes into the Calvin cycle. What does it need from the environment? What's that? You're not sure? Give me a guess. What do plants need? What do they have to have in order to do their thing? What's that? Well, they do need light, and we do see light right here. What else? They need light. Actually, on top, these are the things you need to give a plant. We've all taken care of plants before, right? So what do you got to do to a plant, Annabelle? Water. And you don't need to give this to a plant, but it needs it from the air. What does it need out of the air? Close. Carbon dioxide. So this is our CO2. But you don't have to, they say talking to plants or singing to plants helps, which might, because if you do that, maybe you'll give more CO2 to the plant. But it's going to be able to get the CO2 from the air pretty easily. Okay? Pauline, can you help us with, I guess we just got one more, 7. Oxygen. Yeah, that is a waste product, right? So from photosynthesis, you put light, water, CO2. Getting what you get out of photosynthesis is oxygen and glucose. All right. Yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's label some more parts. Let's have some fun and label even more. Denise, can you label any more of these? Like, I guess it's just 12, 13. Let's do like 12, 13, 9, or 10. Any idea on these? In the middle here. 9 is drawn with this boom, pow. Yeah, ATP. And there's another energy molecule. I usually draw with like this too. Remember what that one is? Starts with an N. H, yes. And then what's the opposite of ATP? ADP. I guess, I don't know. That's correct. That's opposite. But what's the counter molecule, right? The one it cycles out of is ADP. And then NADPH, after it gives its electron or hydrogen to Calvin, the Calvin cycle to Calvin, then it turns into NADP plus. Yeah, so those are, a couple more things. Let me choose Julian. Let's look at 1 and 2. Yeah, that's good. So what stage occurs in these green little membrane things? I mentioned this earlier. This first stage where light is splitting water. Those are the LDR. LIG. Don't know? Anybody finish that for me? Light. Depth. Depth. Dependent. That looks good. Reactions. Yeah, the light dependent reactions. Over 3, I said the Calvin cycle. We also, the light independent reactions. Independent. That's a lot to say and to write, though. Oh, where is this happening, Julian? Any idea? The location. Starts with a T. You want some help? Okay, so the location of our light reactions. Let's, Jacqueline. Starts with a T. Oh, you got your thing. Oh, we'll just give it a shot. That's how we learn. Yeah, thylakoids. Okay, inside the thylakoid space. Inside there. And what about, Jacqueline, tell me the location of the Calvin cycle. Where would that be? That one you'll be looking for an S. Stroma, yeah. That's occurring in the stroma. Okay. All right, we kind of labeled that, reviewed all of photosynthesis right there. Let's go to our comparison table. Going to compare the inputs, processes in general of the two, the light-dependent reactions, light-independent reactions, and then the outputs, what comes out, which we kind of just summarized. Similarities and differences, whatever we come up with. Kimberly, so can you tell me, like, an input similarity or difference between the two? Like, what's going into the, I'm just going to abbreviate them, light reactions and dark reactions here. What's going into the light reactions?
I just put that LDP captures light energy and LIP does not need light to proceed.
Okay, so that's the inputs. So differences, so the light reactions need light, and the dark reactions, no light needed. So that's the difference, right? In what goes in. So we have light going into the light reactions, no light needed to go into the dark reactions. Do they use products from the light reactions? Do they both have molecules from the light reactions? Yeah, they do, because the Calvin cycle needs those. Maybe that would be a similarity. Both use molecules made by light reactions. That's, I guess, a similarity. What else is going into the light reaction, Kimberly? Yeah, like where are we going? Got inputs to both. What do we see here? We talked about the light, but what's another input or inputs? You're not sure? Would you guys like to talk to each other a little bit before I call the next person? Would that help? If you do some, you already kind of think pair shared earlier. Do you want to talk to each other real quick? Okay, why don't you talk to each other real quick at your table groups on that question about our inputs, okay? So we can talk more about, because we talked about the light, but there's some other input. So go and talk to each other right now. I'll give you like a minute or two. And then the next person I pick, you can talk about what you talked about. So what are some other inputs? Talk to each other. Talk to each other. Collaborate. Celebrate. No clue? Oh, well, right now just focus on the inputs. Okay. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Emily, you were chosen by the popsicle stick gods. The Greek god of popsicle sticks. So what are some other inputs that we could talk about similarity or difference-wise for our light reactions and our dark reactions? What's another input for the light reaction? What else is going into this? We got the sun. What else do we need? The water. Yeah, so the water's going to the light reactions. Does water have to go into the dark reaction? Do you see water going in there? We don't, do we? So that's in our differences. So the light reaction needs water. Dark reaction, no water. Okay, so we got that. We got this. And we got one more thing. What's that one more? What's that other input? Carbon dioxide. So the light reaction, no CO2. Dark reaction. Kind of interfering with my thing here. Light reaction, no CO2. Dark reaction needs CO2. Okay. That's good for inputs. Now let's move to processes, similarities and differences with our processes. Getting down to the... Brittany, so what can you tell me about the processes that maybe they're different or they share the light and the dark reactions? What's basically what's going on? In general, what's happening in either one of those, and we'll look at it. Okay, so we got NADP plus and ADP. Those are being created by the processes. So what process is creating that in the Calvin cycle? What's happening? Like, what do we call this process of taking CO2 and making sugar? You remember? That's on your poster that we did. Well, oxidation and reduction reactions do occur in both, so that would be a similarities. Both. The dark reactions, mostly reduction. But when you take CO2 in the air and make a physical molecule out of it, that's the heart of what's happening in the Calvin cycle. Does anybody know what that's called? Denise, it looks like you have an idea. Yeah, carbon fixation. So that only happens in the dark reactions. This is where you get the carbon being fixed from the air, and then you make sugar out of it. What is happening? Talk to me a little bit. Well, talk to your neighbors first. What are the basic reactions that are happening in the light reactions? Look at your diagrams. See if you can come up with a couple words that describe that. Okay, go ahead. I'll give you a minute or two. Okay? Go ahead and talk to each other right now with your table group. What is happening in here? Okay, that's the process we want to dial into. Okay? Let's dig down into that process. What is that process? What's happening? What's going on? You use that diagram. Talk to each other. Utilize each other as a resource. So, like what? How can you describe these reactions that are happening in here? Like what's going on here and then here? Yeah, with all the E's. We did this. Yeah, we did that. That's a very similar process that's happening here. Okay, it's the same kind of process. What's happening to water? Good questions. Any other group have a question? I just had a good time talking to another group. So what's going on here? Like, how would you summarize that? Like, what's this process? How would you describe? Like, what's happening here? There's a bunch happening. There's actually 3 major things. So, you guys come up with something? Either of you have your diagrams? Oh, you were studying it. Yeah. Yeah, that's building up. Yeah. So where's that hydrogen coming from? Yeah, well, what's getting split? Something's getting split, and then you're getting a whole bunch of hydrogen out of it. What's going into the light reaction? That's good. All right. Let's come back in 5, 4, 3, duh. Ashley, what did you and Emily discuss? Yeah, water is split. Okay, that's a difference. We don't see any splitting in the Calvin cycle. So the light reaction, water is split. And that's, what do you get when you split water? You can look at water. What are you going to get? What's that? Hydrogen and oxygen, right? That makes sense, right? That shouldn't be a mystery. You don't have to memorize that. Like, oh, you split up water, H2O, going to get hydrogen and oxygen. So that's a difference in the process. What's another process that's happening there in the light reaction that's not in the dark reaction? Nico, what else is going on? What do you women talk about? We got the water splitting. Maybe what's all that hydrogen being used for? Because you're going to get a whole bunch of hydrogen building up. So what's the energy from that is going to be used for something? You better believe it. It's not going to let that on the table. So what's going to be made from that hydrogen? Well, we got oxygen splitting off already. And inside the thylakoid, you see a little process happening at the bottom. Like, what do you see being made at the bottom? Just referencing your diagram. The hydrogen is going to pour out of there. What's going to be created from that energy? What's that? ATP production. Yeah, ATP is produced from all this hydrogen. Okay? And there's one other thing. It looks very similar to what we see in the mitochondria to make ATP. It's when electrons are moving around along proteins. What's that called, Miguel? We see something happening along the thylakoids. You have it in your diagrams. It's called the electron transport chain. It's at the top is where we drew it. And that's where your NADPH is made. Okay, so that's a lot going on. Well, both of them, but especially for the light reactions and those different processes. Like Calvin cycle, got carbon fixation, you have regeneration of the RUBP, and you got a lot of reduction. But yeah, carbon fixation, regeneration, reduction is what you mostly have in the Calvin. All right, outputs. We kind of already talked about this. Jasleen, what comes out of the light reaction? Like what comes out of this? Yes. So light reaction. Let me prove that. We got oxygen. What else comes out of it? ATP. What else? NADPH. I think that's it. Outputs, yes. And I think those are all different. Yeah. The dark reactions, what comes out of those? Let me get one. Go through the whole cup. Lucas, what comes out of the dark reactions? Glucose, NADP plus, and ADP. Okay, so it looks like no outputs don't have any similarities. We just have differences, although they all work in concert with each other. All right. Go ahead, you can put all that away. Oh, why don't you go ahead and take a picture and add it to Canvas, your learning log for this week, whatever you got there. So you'll have that turned in. And once you get done with that, go ahead and take out a blank sheet of paper. And I want to have you look at these pair cells, so I'll show you how we're going to do that. So any blank sheet of paper you can take out.